Alright folks, time for my quick and dirty predictions for UFC 190, Rousey versus Correia. I know I say this all the time, but there are just so many darn UFC shows going on. And I didn't even actually know there was a UFC on Fox show with a bantamweight championship match. So, not saying that there's a problem with oversaturation, but guys, there's a problem with oversaturation. Okay, so UFC 190, kind of a weird show. It's taking place in Rio. It's actually kind of a combination pay-per-view free show on FX, I'm guessing. So we've got a very unusual situation where we actually have 7 fights on the main card, like the pay-per-view side of things, because they have the Ultimate Fighter Brazil finals along with the main matchups. And just looking at the statistics here, I think it's reasonable to assume why they decided it was okay to put 7 fights on the main card, because there are some really, really glaring mismatches going on here. So if you like finishes, if you like dudes getting knocked out and people having their arms yanked out of the socket, you're probably going to enjoy this show. Okay, so our main events, obviously the big one, Ronda Rousey taking on, and I have to be very careful here because if I mispronounce it, it is a hate crime, Betche Correia. In fact, I actually didn't know that you pronounce Betche's name as Betche until I watched the UFC on Fox show earlier this weekend. So, whew, that's got to be a hard childhood with a name like that. So anyway, Ronda Rousey, what more can I say? She beats people. She beats them mercilessly. She's actually had one fight in her career thus far make it past the first round. And even in that, she just completely dominated Miesha Tate, who, after winning the fight over the weekend, will probably be the #1 contender for whoever wins this matchup. Obviously, Betche, she's very, very tough. You look at her, she looks like she's one of those exploitation SS women in prison guards. And Rousey, she just beats people and she beats them bad. She makes world-class female athletes look like, junior high bench warmers. I mean, there's no other way to say it. And look at this fight. I mean, there's some interesting dynamics statistically. Rousey height advantage, reach advantage. Strikes lane actually goes to Correia, but then again, Rousey just takes people down and rips their arm out and doesn't have to worry about striking people. Striking accuracy actually goes towards Correia, but I look at something here. Takedown defense actually goes towards Correia over Rousey. But I look at 2 stats here, actually 3, but 2 significantly, which just kind of make me hang my head. And that's in terms of takedown attempts per 15-minute fight. And keep in mind, this is extremely short because, once again, Rousey's fights barely get past the first round. She's averaging 8.19 takedowns per fight. That is absolutely unheard of. I mean, even you look at the world-class wrestlers, you look at your George St. Pierre's and your John Fitches and all these guys that are known for the takedown, and they're barely getting like 3 or 4 a fight, and here she has 8.19 when her average fight time is 2.39 seconds. That is just fundamentally absurd. Even crazier, her submissions attempted per 15-minute fight, 6.3. I have never seen a statistic that high in my goodness, how many years I've been covering this on YouTube. Anyway, that's extraordinarily high. In Correia, no sub attempts. So here's the thing. This is one of those fights where you look at it, you really want to press the Mike Tyson, James Buster Douglas fight button that's happening in a faraway land. There's really not a whole bunch of publicity about it. It seems like an absolute giveaway. And I am tempted to maybe go that way, but just looking at the stats here, got to give it to Rousey. I think Correia is definitely going to be tough. She's got pretty good takedown defense, but Rousey's going to have his way with her. I don't think she's going to submit her in the first round. I think this fight will go to the second, but really we're just in the inevitable here. Rousey's going to tag her standing up, take her down at will, and I think she finally secures the armbar early in the second. So Rousey, unsurprisingly, wins this one. Co-main event, very, very interesting matchup. Mauricio Shogun Hua taking on Antonio Rogero Nogueira. Not that this is a Brazilian show by any instances there. So yeah, these guys fought in Pride. Both guys really not relevant as light heavyweight competitors anymore. This is just kind of for nostalgia's sake. Looking at it, height goes to Little Nog. Strangely enough, reach goes to Hua. Strikes landed per minute goes to Hua. Striking accuracy, Hua. Stripes absorbed per minute actually goes towards Little Nog. Takedown accuracy goes towards Hua, but Little Nog has better takedown defense. Both these guys coming off, and submission attempts are dead even. Both these guys coming off some pretty disastrous losses. I don't know. I think Hua's really just a shell of his former self. He's been tagged up way too much. Little Nog also a shell of his former self, but I think he's got a little bit more in his gas tank. I think he goes in here and he wins this second round stoppage, and Hua, dude, it's time to hang him up. I mean, you can only get beat up so much, and this guy's face looks like leather. You don't end up looking like Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, who's also fighting on the card, and more on that later. Guys, as far as the Ultimate Fighter Brazil fights, Glecio Franca taking on Fernando Bruno and Reginaldo Vieira taking on Adelino Lopez. I did my research here, but the stats just really aren't enough for me to make any sort of head to tails about, so I'd be making a completely glib shot in the dark with my predictions. So, just to be quick, Franco, from all I know, he's got a 4-foot height advantage, and he's younger, so I'm going to give him the fight by decision. Vieira, not really sure what his reach is, but this Delano Lopez guy is younger. And he's got a 67 inches. I'm not sure what Vieira looks like. Maybe he's got T-Rex arms, but based on that very skinny information, I'm going to go with Lopez, and that is my charlatan pick of the week. Lopez, second round, TKO for reasons I cannot explain. So yeah, to recap, don't take these picks at all. I don't know anything about them. I don't have any stats. Move on. Okay, Stefan Struve taking on Big Nog. Big Nog, he's probably should have retired like 3 years ago. Struve, now if I'm not mistaken, Struve actually was diagnosed with a really dire heart condition, and there's a pay-per-view a while back where he freaked out like before the fight, and it got bumped off the main card. So yeah, who knows? That could be a good wild card. Maybe he'll freak out again on this one. A loss. Looking at the statistics here, one of the most insane height discrepancies we've seen in a long time. Struve 6'11", Big Nog 6'3". 84-inch reach advantage for Struve. Struve landed 3.13 significant strikes per fight, although he's also eating more, 3.96 compared to 2.23 significant strikes absorbed compared to Big Nog per fight. Struve, slightly better striking accuracy, 46% to 41%. Big Nog's got the better takedown average, 1.32 to 0.53. A dead even on takedown defense, and Struve, obviously, the submission advantage, 3.4 submission attempts per fight compared to Big Nog's 2.5. Just looking at the fighting time here, 10 minutes average Big Nog fight, Struve about 6 minutes. Unless Struve just has another panic attack before the fight, this is really his to lose. I think he pretty much drops Rodrigo Nogueira early in the first round. TKO. I would be shocked this thing goes more than a minute. And Big Nog really should take that as a sign to retire, but I think he's got one more fight in him where he gets beaten up really bad as Renan Barrera got beat up on his feet over the weekend. So, not a hard pick there. Also not a hard pick. Antonio Silva taking on Sal Palili. Look at the stats. I mean, I could read too. They're pretty even. Really, there's not much of a difference anyway. Palia, better takedown accuracy, 2.17 to 0.94. But Bigfoot Silva's got a better submission average, 0.9 per fight compared to Soa's 0.0. Really, I don't have to tell you much here unless Silva gets popped for anabolics before the fight. Got to give it to Bigfoot. We saw his striking. This dude tagged up Alistair Overeem. He can tag up Soa. I think this is another fight that ends by TKO early in the first. Give it to Silva. And strangely enough, probably the most interesting matchup of the entire show is actually the curtain jerker on the main card. That's the strawweight eliminator between Claudia Goldaha and World Series of Fighting import Jessica Aguilar. I really don't have the best stats on Aguilar, so I really can't do an apples-to-apples comparison. But just from what I've seen, I'm gonna have to give this fight to Claudia. I think you know, looking at her record here and just comparing the way she wins fights compared to Aguilar, got to go with the upset. I think Goldahall wins it, and that sets up a rematch against Double J. If you care about women's strawweight fighting, and you probably don't, which is a shame because it's probably going to be the best competitive matchup on the entire show. All right, and rounding out the rest of the show, and there's some names on here we haven't really heard from in quite a while. We got Demian Maui. Wow, back on the UFC roster, taking on Neil Magny. I think he was at by decision, typical Demian Maui fight. Rafael Cavalcante against Patrick Cummins. I got Cavalcante knocking him out first round. Nordine Talib against Warley Alves, decision for Talib. Yuri Alcantara against Leandro Isa. I'm going to go with a decision for Iuri. Clint Hester versus Vitor Miranda. All you need to know about here is they have really great nicknames. Clint Hester is Head Bussa, and Vitor Miranda is Lex Luthor. So with that in mind, got to go with Clint Hester by decision. And in a matchup, really great stereotypical names. We got Hugo Viana taking on Guido Canidi. His name might as well be Spaghetti Alfredo. And I'm just going to go with Hugo, round 2 stoppage. So there you go. UFC 190, another show in Brazil. Lots of mismatches, lots of dudes getting knocked out, lots of really grisly submissions. It should be a pretty entertaining show. Probably not worth pay-per-view money, but you know what? If you're going to check it out on the webs, it's there. You'll get some pretty cool highlight reel footage regardless. So UFC 190, probably not checking it out, but I don't know, might be entertaining.